Thanks for checking out Ageless Wanderer. We know you're going to like the channel, so please subscribe now. Good morning, guys. I thought I would do a quick video from the captain's seat and take a look around the boat. Let's get to our controls. So the controls are protected by a waterproof cover, so I can turn things on, and if I know I'm going to be in rough conditions, we can go ahead and put the cover on. And we've got the running lights, the main cabin lights. This runs the chart plotter depth sounder. This runs the electric box on the other side we'll take a look at. This is the auto switch for the bilge pumps, and this is the manual turn on the bilge pumps. I've got it set up when I turn on my running lights. Lights for all of the switches come on. And then I don't want my USB plugs on all the time. So I've got that set up when I turn on my standby or auto switches for the bilge pump. I can power up the USB switches, because this switch will stay on all the time while I'm underway. Okay, coming on back, we got the wire bundle, and all the straps are held in place by a compression piece of aluminum and E6000. Then this is our lithium anti-gravity battery, and we've got all of the fuses inside the top of the battery box. Since the battery only weighs 4 pounds and it fits into a very small battery box, I went ahead and glued the battery box to the back of the seat and got it way off of the floor. It's also got 6 screws as well as fender washers holding that in place. Yeah, I have had 10 inches of water in this boat, 12 inches of water in storm conditions, taking waves that, you know, the bilge pumps get out pretty quickly, but I do not want anything critical on the bottom. And then all the electronics for my hydraulic jack plate are under this end cap here. I went ahead and put this splash protector so no salt water can get to it. Coming across, this is the network cabling for the NEMA 2000 system, which takes information from the motor's computer, the ECU, and takes it into the network and up to the chart plotter. So I have full instruments, water temperature, fuel flow, oil pressure, all that good stuff. And you can see the whale tail from Davis Instruments on the back of the motor back there, and my Vance hydraulic jack plate right here, which is going to be a new addition to this year's trip. It's a jack plate as well as a kick plate, which allows it to swing up if I have to jump over some ice or something. And you'll see the twin large volume water pumps or bilge pumps. These I have plugged with waterproof automotive plugs, so that if I need to snap one out, I can just squeeze the little snaps, undo the plugs. And I don't put any tie straps on the end of the bilge pump because it's held in there by a compression virtue of the layout I've got, and allows me to put the pump in my hand, disassemble if I need to do maintenance on it. Okay, and I just have the bilge pumps shooting out over the side. The next thing you'll see is my boarding ladder right here. It's a stainless steel ladder I had on last trip. I really like that thing. In case I were to accidentally go over the side and, you know, 30-something degree water, I want to be able to get back in this boat quickly. And then we've got the water separator fuel filter, which makes me feel good. You kind of have suspect fuel in a lot of the places I go to, and I like having a nice big industrial fuel filter and a water separator that from my seat where I run the boat from, I can take a look and see if I've got water in my fuel. Next thing you'll see is a switch right here and a switch right here, and those are switches for each bank of fuel, fuel tank. So my concern is I'll get an air leak or a fuel problem, and I would want to be able to turn off an entire bank of tanks till I can get that repaired and run off the other tanks. So I have the option of turning the fuel off to each bank, as well as a separate fuel switch on each tank. Okay, next we'll look at the anchor storage. The anchor storage is on impact absorbing foam, and it actually fits into a slot so it can't move around, and the blades are actually held in place so they can't move around. And I've got nylon eyes screwed and glued into the transom to help hold that in place. And being in the back of the boat, it shouldn't beat around too bad. One addition this year from last year is the addition of a water storage containment. It kind of moved around the boat last year, and had some issues with that, punching a hole in my water container. I will carry a couple of backup water containers, but this 2.5 gallon will be my primary. And then I keep a paddle here in the back. Next coming across is the electric box. I've got 2 layers of foam in here, so I've got my batteries for the GoPro cameras and a lot of other batteries, primary batteries in the first layer. And then the second layer, you can see I come with my power to USB outlets. So I've got 4 USB outlets, and I've got USB-C as well as USB-A, or what do you call it, micro USB plugs, and that'll cover everything that I carry with me. And I actually am not going to use that headlight. I've got some rechargeable headlights, and that's not my actual radio I'm going to carry on the trip. I've got a rechargeable radio that I really prefer. It's my newer one. It's a little bit more waterproof. Coming forward, I mounted the fire extinguisher this year. I just kept it in one of my boxes, and since I'm going with a little bit smaller storage box container, I wanted to get that out and get it mounted. I kind of like that place right there. And this will leave me some room to store my drone right here. And I may carry a camera box just to carry a little more camera equipment this year, and I can use that space on the driver's side as well as the port side. Let's see, coming on forward, I've got my bumpers mounted up here, and they're secured to an eyelet, and then my flotation throwing device, I'm just going to wedge in up there. I can get to it real easy. Now, the waterproof storage boxes are lightweight material because I can't carry a lot of extra weight in this. These are strong enough. I went ahead and put 6 stainless steel screws with fender washers, attaching those to the floor. Then on the inside of those, I have my shock absorbing material. So anything inside there is going to be impact absorbing, so it doesn't put that impact into the frame. And we've got the, I'll try to get a picture here where you can see it, the foam under all of the tanks, and even the 5-gallon tanks up front up here will have foam strips under them. So as we're clonking into waves, that energy is absorbed by 5 strips of foam under each of the 12-gallon tanks, and then the whole perimeter on the 5-gallon tanks has compression foam under it to take impact off of the boat and let it be absorbed there. And the other thing we did this year is all the floor panels are glued in place with silicone glue, which I can break if I need to get into the lower area. But it should add some structure to the boat by having that glued. And then I replaced the rivets with stainless steel screws all the way through. And I used a silicone bed as I went in with every screw to eliminate the galvanic corrosion that's sometimes associated with mixing stainless steel and aluminum. Moving forward, I'll walk up here. The black board you see right there is a dam, and it directs water off to the side so that any rainwater that were to come over the bow when I am camping is captured by that and taken to the bilge so it doesn't run into my sleeping area. And I've got boards supporting this storage boxes on both sides, this little board right here. And what that does is keeps the boxes from sliding down into my tanks. And all of the tanks are secured with double lines here, and I prefer rope over straps just because I carry lots of ropes and I can redo everything if I need to in an emergency or repair situation. This is a hatch that was supplied to me by Weldbilt. They were a little uncomfortable taking away some of my flotation up here, and they said, if you want to do it, you can do it. So I installed this hatch myself. They did go ahead and put a bulkhead in front of the hatch. So I do have a good bit of flotation across the front of the boat here. And most of the stuff I'm storing inside here, paper towels, toilet paper, clothing and stuff, are in waterproof bags that will provide flotation also. And my tent will just be kind of tucked in here so I can get a quick get out of the tent, and so I can get that up in a hurry. You'll see I put cleats all over the place, and I've got a guide for my bow line or my anchor line up front, which is going to help. Big improvement to last year. And along with the split boxes, I had instead of the 2 boxes like I have this year, I had a huge box across the front that I'd have to step over, which was a real pain in the butt. I added these little thumb screws on either side of the boxes, and what that is to do is to, if I take a wave over the front, keep this lip from lifting up and letting water in. Also helps keep dust from getting in my boxes while I'm traveling. You'll notice these red lines at different positions along my gunnel. That is the exact location of where the snaps are for my tent, so I can not have to kind of feel around for my snap location when I'm putting up the tent. Those lines take me right to the snap location. Let's see, coming back, I've got my magnetic compass, and I made sure I got it away from the electronics of the chart plotter, and everything you see there in the tank is non-magnetic along with the boat, so we aren't going to have anything impacting that magnetic compass there. And we come on back to my chart plotter. The chart plotter, I built this bracket for myself. It was what allowed me to get it in the position I wanted it to be, where I can get at it and use the touch screen, and worked out really well. I've got cleats for everything. This cleat is to run a support system for tensioning my motor. In case I lost a trim tab, I can actually tension up with a shock cord and still not have a lot of torque on my handle. This I use to keep my bow line pulled back under tension while I'm underway. Just kind of keeps everything out of the way. And you'll see different eyes around the boat. You'll see an eye behind the compass, and over there by the bumpers, and over here in the back. And what those are for is to tie off my bumpers if I'm going through a lock or I'm on a dock that doesn't have built-in bumpers. Let's see, now I'm sitting on a Millennium seat. I went with the Pro saltwater version. I love this seat. I've got these straps that are adjustable for me, which is really nice, and I like those. The main thing I'm really excited about this is no more swamp butt. I used some seats last year with foam padding, and the foam was always full of water, and it didn't matter if it's 3 days later, I sat down and my butt was wet. So we're gonna do away with that. The next thing you'll see is my suspension seat. Let me see if I can get some video of that for you. Yeah, so what this does is it gives me suspension when I'm hitting waves, and you can't believe how much difference that this little device makes. After my world record trip coming down the Mississippi River through the lower Mississippi, hitting all those boat wakes, I could hardly move. My back was killing me. I've crossed 300-mile days on the Arctic, and with this suspension seat, no problem. Next thing you'll see is an angle aluminum bracket that I put on my seat. It's glued with E6000 as well as stainless steel screws at the back and front. I think that's going to work fine. I've had it out for a lot of miles in testing, and it's holding up really, really well. But having a comfortable seat at the right height and at the right location so that your hand can just rest on your tiller at a very convenient and ergonomically correct position allows you to, spend 8, 10, 12 hours at the tiller without a lot of fatigue. Well, you didn't get to see the tent put up, but it is low in the front, and that's to keep the bow from blowing around when I'm at anchor. And it is more than head high in the back. And I use this area here to set up my stove and do all my cooking. The pole at the back of the tent sits about right here, so it's kind of out of the way. But yeah, and I just lay my bedding up all the way up to the boxes up there. I can stretch out even though I'm about 7 foot tall with my toes pointed. I put down a layer of foam fold on the floor first, and then I use the long air mattress, and then I use a 900 down water resistant down. I think they call it hydrophobic down quilt to sleep in the bottom of the boat. Sleep between the gas tanks. Okay, that kind of wraps up an overview of what the Arctic John boat's looking like for this year's trip.